Hey there, welcome back to Author Journey. My name is CJ Anaya, and today we are going to talk about editing. Give you a few self-editing tips to try to clean up your manuscript. And these are some things that I learned at workshops, various workshops, a lot from Annette Lyons, who is a fabulous author and also a fabulous editor. So just a few tips to go over since a lot of you have asked questions about this, and we're going to talk about the different types of editing as well. Okay, so you've got your developmental edits, and this type of editing focuses on the structure of your book, looking for plot holes, inconsistencies, tone, the focus of your book. Sometimes people are unaware that they've shifted the focus of their book to maybe a secondary character, and so the readers don't know who they're supposed to be following now, or maybe the readers can't figure out who the love interest is because you haven't made it very clear who the protagonist is, who the villain is, who the love interest is, because of your focus or just inconsistencies in plot. So developmental edits really take your manuscript and rip it apart, and you have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared to kill your darlings, so to speak, because it can be very difficult to have a developmental editor look at your book and start taking chunks out and rearranging things, because it can be a puzzle piece. But it's very, very good for your book, and it's very, very good for your learning process. So if you've never had any developmental edits done, I highly suggest that you do so, because you're going to learn a lot about plot and structure. You're going to learn a lot about tone, about theme, about focus in your book. It's going to help you become a better writer. And it can be expensive, but I still suggest you do it at least once. Okay, line edits. This focuses on the way you use language to communicate your story for better flow and pacing. So it covers things like awkward sentence structure, run-on sentences, confusing action, tonal shifts, etc., that type of thing. So they're literally going, line by line through it to see if there's a better way to word that sentence or a better way to structure that sentence. That can get very detailed and be just make your eyes cross if you're doing it yourself. Copy edits. This covers spelling, grammar, punctuation, and syntax. So it addresses flaws on a technical level. Is it good to get all three types of edits done? Yes. Is it great if you can find an editor who can do all three? Yes. Is it expensive? Yes. It really is. Editing is expensive. So it's really good if you know how to do a lot of this yourself, but still you're going to need editors. The bottom line is, if you want to create a wonderful high quality product, you need to find good editors who are going to look at your book and help you fix what is wrong with it, the things that you can't see. Okay, so just things that you can look for. We're not going to go over any of the developmental editing stuff in this tutorial. We're going to go over more of the line edits and the copy edits, okay? Because these are things that you can fix really easily if you know what to look for. However, having said that, don't do this until you're done with all of the developmental edits, until you've implemented all of those, because if you go through this and fix these things, what's going to happen is you will have to rewrite and fix everything that your developmental editor asked you to fix, and there's bound to be more awkward sentence structures, bound to be more issues with punctuation and grammar the more you rewrite. So wait for these types of edits after developmental editing, okay? Alrighty, so, and the great way to do this is just taking on one or two specific things at a time and going through your manuscript, which means you'll probably make several passes. So I suggest that you put space in between those passes so that you just don't hate your book so much by the end of this that you throw it, you throw your laptop across the room, okay? So first thing to look at is this physically possible? As you read your manuscript and you're looking at the way you've orchestrated scenes, did your character just grab hold of a knife when her hands are still tied behind her back? Okay, that I've done that before. It doesn't make sense. It's jarring. Is your character doing something different in your mind and you thought you put it on paper? Okay, but maybe you didn't. Okay, where is everyone within the scene? In your mind, did the MC cross the room, but in actuality, you never gave that direction in the text. So it can be very confusing for the reader if you have it in your head one way, but you didn't put it down on paper. And these inconsistencies can be a problem. They're not a huge deal, but they can be layered throughout your book. And so you want to pay attention to those as you read your manuscript, as you go through it. 3, who is doing what? Look for scenes with multiple characters of the same gender because that can sometimes be confusing when you have lots of male characters, lots of female characters, big scenes with lots of characters. This can be confusing and difficult because everybody needs to know where placement is, where each character is standing, what they're doing, what the action is, how they're reacting. And as far as names go, you don't want to have names that are super confusing because then they're going to mix those names up with different characters. So paragraphing is the best way to keep your readers on track with who is doing what. So anytime a new character is doing something, you're illustrating something, you're showing a reaction, just do a new paragraph. Shorter paragraphs are actually a lot better for readers. These long descriptive paragraphs, don't do them too often. Shorter paragraphs are easier. It chunks it up. It makes it easier to read, helps them figure out where the action is, who's doing what. It's just easier. So look for those things. 4, do you have info dump problems? We've talked about this with backstory. So work in the information throughout your book by sprinkling or planting those thoughts. Okay, you can do it a little bit in dialogue, not too much. Do it in action sequences, do it wherever, but not at the beginning. Okay, at the beginning, that's for your hero action. That's for a conflict that you're going to bring up that isn't the main conflict of the book, but just something that your protagonist needs to solve right away to draw the reader in, and then eventually you get to the main conflict of the book. So no huge info dumps in the beginning, and don't develop huge info dumps throughout any area in your book. Just make sure there's a little bit here and there, okay? Otherwise you're going to lose your readers. Are you head hopping within a scene? Talked about that. Stay in the same person's head within a scene. Are you forgetting to use point of view? So how would this particular character say or do this particular thing? Are your characters all sounding the same at one point? Are all of your male characters sounding the same and you can't differentiate between the love interest and his best friend? So make sure you really focus on characterization. Is your dialogue boring or dragging? Are you focused on chit chat, the weather, the niceties, rather than diving below the surface and really creating dialogue that is believable, realistic, and digs below just, hi, how you doing? Hi, how was your day? Oh, it's really sunny outside. Hey, I hope I don't get a sunburn. That's boring. Nobody wants to read that. So dialogue must drive the plot or reveal more about the characters. So pay attention to that. Are you dealing with pacing issues? If your pacing is slow, you need to do more showing rather than telling. If the pacing feels rushed, you need to do a little more telling rather than showing, believe it or not. If the pacing is jumpy and erratic, you probably need smoother transitions between scenes. So sometimes these gaps in scenes, so you don't necessarily break it up into chapters, which is great. The chapter is fine. But sometimes you're switching scenes within a chapter and that can be a little erratic. So just smooth out those transitions. Make sure that we don't feel like we're being jarred out of a scene or out of the book because of it. Words to search for and cut. And I know you're looking at that going, what? Because when I first learned about this, I was like, crap. Because I knew that I had all of these words in there and more and probably had repeated them a million times. So you've got just very well that up, down, rather than. I mean, basically, you will use these throughout your manuscript, but using them repetitively, there are stronger ways to write the story. There are better words that you can use. It makes the writing weak. So find better ways to write these sentences without using these words constantly, okay? And you can search through, I'm pretty sure on Word and in Scrivener, you can search a specific word, see how many times it pops up, go through, find different ways. It'll highlight it for you. It'll highlight the same word and where you've used it, so it'll point it out to you, which is really nice. And you can go through and find each one that's repetitive and see if there's a better way that you can write it without using these words constantly. So 10, there is our were it. This is the weakest way to start a sentence. Okay, so now I'm going to give you or show you examples of sentences that people might write and ways that you can make them stronger. So there is a boy on the team who has freckles. Take out there is, take out who, okay? And the sentence is better as a boy on the team has freckles. There are some parts of this movie that are boring. So take out there are, take out that. Some parts of this movie are boring. In fact, that is one, the word that, I use that way too much, and I'm constantly slashing and taking it out after I'm going through my manuscript, after I've rewritten everything. I use that so much as a strange filler word. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Lucy was the smartest student in class, and there were many students who envied her. So take that out. Lucy was the smartest student in class, and many students envied her. Okay, you don't need the who. There were the to be verb, were, is, was. Try not to use those as often as you do. See if there's a way to strengthen the language and the sentence without using that, because those words tend to weaken the sentences. Okay, so here's another example. You don't need the adverb. He nodded. You don't need the adverb silently. He knew that. You don't need that. Several of the students, just put several students. So you see these, this is basically trimming the fat, cutting away at words that you don't need. Because you still get the meaning across for that sentence. You just don't need these words. She cried out. They sat down. Of course, if they're sitting, they're going to go down. They stood up. Of course, if they're standing, they're going to go up. You don't need to repeat that. Sniffed with his nose. What else are they going to use to sniff with? Nodded his head. Right, you don't need to say that. This is all there. Wore a big grin on her face. Don't need that there. So these are just examples. Sorry, you guys, I'm having major allergies today. These are just examples of things that we all do that we don't necessarily need to do. Like, I do this constantly in my manuscripts. And then I know when I'm going through that there's going to be so many things that I have to cut. Even knowing what I know about editing, I still make these mistakes quite a bit when I'm writing, because I don't want to edit myself as I'm writing. I just want to get the rough draft written no matter how crappy it is, because I know that I can go through and I can look at my notes on self-editing. I can look at other things on Google or other notes that I've taken from other workshops, and I can slowly and systematically go through and fix these things that I know are there, that are problems. So just make sure that you're looking at these types of things to really tighten stuff up, especially if you want to just make several passes towards the end after you've given it to an editor. It's not a bad thing to do that, or even to have beta readers who know to look for this stuff, who can do it for you. Now, some of you have emailed me and asked me if I would take a look at your manuscripts. You wondered if I did any type of editing, and I do. I prefer developmental edits, and I am on Upwork. So if you are interested in having me take a look at your manuscript, I'm really happy to do that. Just make sure that when you post the job and you invite me to the job, you just need to search for me, CJA, here on Upwork. So you need to create an Upwork account. You just post your job of what you need, and then search for me, search for freelancers, and you can find me. And then you can invite me to the job. Just let me know that you found me through my YouTube channel, Author Journey. I will probably be more inclined to accept the job. I also am really passionate about not making things too expensive, because developmental editing, it really can cost you thousands of dollars, and I'm not interested in charging anyone thousands of dollars when that's not within their budget. I know how it is being an indie author, and it can be very pricey to find a developmental editor, especially one that you could trust, that you feel you can trust. So I work for $65 an hour. That's what I charge an hour. But I also do fixed prices. So you can get on here and do a fixed price. You can let me know what your budget is. And I generally don't haggle too much with that. If that's your budget and I feel like I have time, I will let you know, and I will accept the job and help you with the developmental aspects of your book. I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to help you. I just need you to know that I do need to charge something, because my time is limited and I'm trying to help support my family. But I don't want to charge you thousands of dollars to help you with your manuscript. I will also let you know if I have the time, because it's going to take several passes through it to make sure that we get everything, to make sure that we tighten up the plot, that we find any plot holes, that we find any inconsistencies. That will take a good week at least to get through. And so if I don't have the time to do that and I can't give your manuscript the attention it deserves, I'll be very honest with you about that, because I am taking on a lot of projects, doing a lot of different things. So if you are at all interested in having me look at your book and helping you with those edits, I'm very happy to do that. Just find me on Upwork and invite me to the job, post the job, invite me, and I will do my very best to work with you, work with your budget, let me know what you can handle, the type of things that you would like me to look at. Sometimes people know that there's something wrong with their manuscripts and they just can't fix it. So they're like, I'm pretty sure characterization is an issue. I'm pretty sure the structure is wrong. I had a hard time in the middle. You know, if you'll point those things out to me, then I can zero in on that, and that's very helpful. But I hope that this tutorial helped you guys, gave you a few ideas on things that you can do for yourself when it comes to editing and cleaning up your manuscript. And then I hope as a developmental editor, I can help you and give that service to you at a rate that's going to be much better for you than a lot of other developmental editors. And the thing is, that's how it is. Editing is so expensive. It just is, because it's hard work and they're going through it several times and they're spending several hours on it. So I get that, but man, it's rough as an author when you have a very limited budget. So I'm trying to help you guys out any way that I can. So hit me up, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're new to the family. If you have any questions, comment below, let me know. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.